Hello dear listener, and welcome to another journey from the Sleepless Academic. I'm truly glad you're here tonight. Maybe you're nestled into a warm quilt, listening as a soft rain taps against the window pane. Perhaps there's a quiet cup of tea nearby, its steam curling gently into the room. Or maybe you're simply letting the day's thoughts dissolve, like mist rising from a still lake. This space is yours. A quiet little corner of the cosmos where we rest, reflect and drift off with wonder. Tonight, we set foot on a path paved not by stones or sand, but by seconds, minutes, and years. A path whispered about in old tales and theorized by the sharpest minds in science. The path of time itself. Since the beginning of recorded thought, humans have looked at the stars and asked, what is time? And more mysteriously, can we move through it? Is a question as old as consciousness itself. Before you drift too far beyond the ticking clocks into the hidden dimensions where timelines tangle and dreams unfold, I'd love to know. Where are you listening from? Pop a comment below if you'd like. I read each one, and your words make this strange little corner of the internet feel more like home. And if you enjoy these kinds of thoughtful explorations, please do give the video a gentle like, and maybe tap that subscribe button. That way, more curious minds can join us for these nightly explorations. It is a comfort to know that across this vast world, others are tuning in, thinking, wondering, unravelling the mysteries of existence alongside you. Because across the centuries, the cities, the unseen frequencies, you're not alone. We're unravelling the mysteries together. Now, let the lights dim. Let the whir of time fade to a hush. Feel your body surrender to gravity, safe and still. You are warm. You are held. And wherever or whenever you are, you belong. So take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let the weight of the day dissolve. And allow your mind to drift, softly, slowly, beyond the ticking of the clock on your wall. Chapter 1. The Dream of Time Travel. There's something irresistibly magical about the idea of travelling through time. To revisit a long-lost loved one, to witness the pyramids being built stone by stone, or to skip ahead into the distant future, to see what becomes of our world. Books, films and stories have tried to capture this wonder, from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, to the DeLorean of Back to the Future, to the spinning blue police box in Doctor Who. The idea of time travel has danced in and out of our collective imagination like a ghost from another century. But what if it wasn't all fantasy? What if there were real clues, real science, that suggested time travel might one day be possible? Or perhaps already is. Before we drift too far into the mystery, let's make ourselves comfortable. Feel the softness beneath you. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Each inhale a gentle wave, each exhale a soft release. And now imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast glowing river. This river is unlike any you've ever seen. It sparkles with light, not from the sun, but from every moment that has ever existed. The flowing water moves not left or right, but forward, always forward. This river is time. Some believe we are passengers floating with its current, unable to change direction. Others believe there are eddies and whirlpools, places where the flow circles back upon itself. Still others think that with the right tools or the right understanding, we could dip beneath the surface and emerge in another era entirely. Tonight we'll explore all of these possibilities. Let the sound of my voice guide you. Let the night hold you. You are not late. You're not early. You're exactly where you need to be. In this moment, in this now, in the dream of time travel, we've only just begun. Chapter 2. What is time really? As you lay there in the stillness of night, your breath rising and falling in quiet waves, let your thoughts soften. And imagine a single question floating gently across your mind. What is time? Not the numbers on your phone screen or the ticking of a distant clock. Not the rush of the morning or the deadlines of the day, but time itself, pure and unshaped. What is it really? Let's drift together into this mystery. Throughout human history, time has puzzled our greatest minds. It slips through our fingers like smoke, yet structures every aspect of our existence. We are born into it. We live inside it. We age, we change, we remember, we plan. All of it framed within time. But ask a physicist what time is, and you might hear silence before an answer. Because even with all our science and all our tools, time remains an enigma. Let's begin with the classical view. Sir Isaac Newton, in the 17th century, imagined time as an absolute river flowing at the same pace everywhere for everyone. To him, time was universal. It ticked at the same rhythm whether you stood still in a field or galloped across the countryside on horseback. He believed time was an invisible framework upon which the universe was built. But centuries later, in the early 20th century, a young man named Albert Einstein would rewrite that story. He showed the world that time is not absolute, but relative. In Einstein's universe, time bends and warps. It stretches, it contracts, it moves more slowly near a massive object and more quickly in empty space. This idea, called relativity, was proven again and again. If you place two perfectly synchronized atomic clocks in different conditions, one high on a mountaintop and one deep below the Earth's surface, after a while they will no longer agree. Time, it turns out, can flow differently depending on where you are and how fast you're moving. Einstein's work introduced the concept of space-time, a four-dimensional fabric where space and time are interwoven. To move through space is also to move through time, and just as we can move forward and backward in space, theoretically under the right conditions, might we move through time as well? That's where our journey begins to stretch toward the fantastic. But first, let's take a gentler path. A more ancient one, because long before clocks or relativity or even written language, humans watched the sun rise and set. They noticed the changing of the seasons, the cycles of the moon, the rhythm of breath, of heartbeat, of sleep. To them, time wasn't linear, it was cyclical. In Hindu philosophy, time is seen as a great wheel, an endless cycle of creation and destruction. The universe spins through yugas, ages of light and darkness, forever. In Mayan belief, time was sacred, complex and vast, tracked by intricate calendars spanning thousands of years. Each moment was connected to the divine. Even in Islam, time is deeply significant. The Quran speaks of divine timing, of fate, of decree, of moments set by God. In Surah Al-Kahf we hear of young men who slept in a cave for 300 years, untouched by time, an ancient echo. Time travel? In the West we tend to see time as a straight line, a timeline, a beginning and an end. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if time is not a line, but a landscape? Imagine walking through a valley of time. Every memory, every possibility, every second that ever was or ever will be exists all at once, like stars in the sky, waiting to be visited. And we move through that valley with the illusion of a straight path. Some physicists believe that all moments exist simultaneously, that now is just our consciousness experiencing one slice of the eternal whole. This idea, called the block universe theory, suggests that time doesn't flow at all. Rather, it just is. The past hasn't disappeared, the future isn't unformed, It's all there, like pages in a book we haven't yet read, and in this vision, time travel becomes not a question of creating a path, but simply finding the right direction, but still for us here in this quiet night. Time feels real, it feels like movement, it feels like change, and perhaps it also feels like a mystery, one that touches every part of our lives. It always stays just out of reach. Let yourself rest in that thought. You don't need to solve it, you don't need to define it, just wonder. Gently. Let time feel soft, like a fog rolling in, not something to fight against, but something to float within. As you drift deeper, let your own sense of time begin to dissolve. Feel how the minutes no longer matter, how the moment stretches wide like the ocean. There is no hurry, no past pulling at you, no future demanding your attention, only this breath, only this now, and in this now you are safe, you are curious, and you are cradled by the mystery of time. Soon we will journey into the theories that suggest we might one day bend time to our will, that with enough knowledge, or technology, or imagination, we might learn to step outside of it entirely. But for now, just breathe and let time pass without pressure, like wind through the trees. Chapter 3: Ancient Concepts of Time. Long before telescopes or particle accelerators, before mathematics carved formulas into the universe, human beings looked at the sky, and in doing so, they began to understand time. The ancient world breathed in rhythm with the heavens. Civilizations from every corner of the globe gazed upward to mark the passage of days, seasons, and centuries. They built monuments that aligned with solstices and equinoxes, structured myths around celestial cycles, and created intricate calendars that foretold the rise and fall of empires. For the ancients, time was not an abstract, mechanical ticking, it was alive. To understand time travel, we must first understand how our ancestors perceived time. Because hidden in their stories, their temples, and their rituals might be clues to a truth we've only recently begun to rediscover. In ancient Egypt, time was seen as cyclical. Each day the sun god Ra would sail across the sky in his solar bark, only to descend into the underworld each night, battling chaos before rising again. This daily journey wasn't just symbolic, it reflected a deeper truth about existence. Time wasn't linear, it was regenerative. Every day mirrored the last, and the world was constantly being reborn. The Egyptians also recorded events on stone in what they called Neher and Jet. Neher referred to cyclical time, time as recurrence. Jet represented eternal time, the enduring timeline of creation that could be accessed in some mysterious way beyond the limits of mortality. Meanwhile, in India, ancient sages spoke of time in terms vast and cosmic. Hindu cosmology introduced the idea of the yugas, great ages that unfold in a repeating pattern. The current age, Kali Yuga, is considered one of darkness and spiritual decay, but it too will pass, cycling back into an age of renewal. The Mahabharata, one of the great epics of Indian tradition, even contains tales that echo modern notions of time dilation. In one story, King Kakudmi travels to meet the creator god Brahma. What seems like moments in Brahma's realm turns out to be thousands of years on Earth. When the king returns, his world has changed entirely. Everyone he knew has vanished. Is it merely myth, or memory of something real? In the Andes, the Inca people had no word for time as we know it. Their language, Quechua, framed the past as something that lies in front of you, something visible and known, while the future was behind you, unseen and unknowable, reversal of our modern thinking. This subtle shift in orientation suggests something profound. Time isn't necessarily fixed in how it's experienced. It might not even move in the same direction for every culture, every consciousness. The Maya of Central America took the concept of time to mesmerizing complexity. Their calendar system was precise beyond anything seen in the ancient world, mapping not just the solar year, but lunar cycles, planetary motions, and immense spans of historical and prophetic time. They believed in great cycles, 13 baktuns of approximately 394 years each, defining cosmic ages. Their famous long count calendar pointed toward 2012 not as an end, but as a renewal of cosmic rhythm. To them, time was sacred geometry. Meanwhile, in Greece, time had two faces, Chronos and Kairos. Chronos was measured time, chronological, structured, linear, but Kairos was the opportune moment, a divine crack in the flow of reality when something extraordinary could occur, perhaps even a window to another age. Across the ocean in ancient China, time was viewed through the lens of nature. The Tao, the way, flowed endlessly, with yin and yang shifting in rhythm. Time was not something to conquer or measure precisely, but to move with. Harmony with time meant harmony with life, and in early Islamic thought, time was created by God, but existed differently in different realms. In the Quran, there are verses that speak of one day equaling 1,000 years, or even 50,000 years, depending on the dimension of existence. Time, it seemed, was not constant across creation. In the story of the people of the cave, Ashab al-Kahf, young men sleep in seclusion for centuries, only to awaken as though no time had passed. The idea of suspended time, or accelerated time, echoed in many traditions across the world. Even in the Christian and Judaic scriptures, there are moments that ripple with strange timing. The prophet Elijah is taken up into the heavens in a whirlwind. Enoch walks with God and vanishes, never tasting death. These moments are often seen as miraculous, but what if they hint at a deeper interaction with time itself? What all these ancient perspectives reveal is that time in the collective human psyche was never just a line. It was a cycle, a spiral, a presence, a force, and crucially, it was porous. There were moments when the veil thinned, when ordinary life brushed against eternity. Sacred sites, sacred times, sacred rituals, these were not just symbolic, they were believed to be gateways. Stonehenge in Britain, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Oracle at Delphi. Perhaps these were more than places of worship or wonder. Perhaps they were, in some sense, aligned with time itself, anchored to moments of cosmic resonance. Even today we find that certain frequencies, alignments, and patterns repeat across nature and culture. Could it be that ancient peoples were attuned to time not just as motion, but as music? Time, in these cultures, was to be felt, to be honoured, to be entered into, and perhaps, under the right conditions, to be stepped beyond. Modern science often dismisses these perspectives as poetic or pre-scientific, but increasingly, researchers are discovering that ancient knowledge and modern physics may not be so far apart. Both speak of layers, both acknowledge mystery, both hint at something beyond what we can see. And so, in the next chapter, we'll begin to explore the bridges between the ancient and the modern, where science starts to catch up with the dreams of our ancestors. We'll step into the theories that suggest time travel may not only be possible, but already occurring. Let's keep drifting. The current is carrying us forward. Chapter 4, Time Travel in Theory, the Science Behind the Possibility. As we drift from the ancient world and its sacred views of time, we now find ourselves surrounded by whiteboards, equations, and chalk-dusted hands. we're entering the halls of science, where curiosity sharpens itself into theory and wonder becomes calculation. Time travel, a concept once whispered in myth, now explored in labs and lecture halls. Let's begin with a question physicists have dared to ask for over a century. Can the laws of the universe allow us to move through time intentionally? To answer this, we have to journey into Einstein's legacy. Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity tells us that time is not constant. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, at least relative to someone who's standing still. It's been proven with precision. Clocks on fast-moving satellites tick just a little slower than those on Earth. This effect, called time dilation, becomes more dramatic the closer you get to the speed of light. If you could somehow travel at light speed, a staggering 299,792 kilometers per second, time would nearly stop for you. A round-trip voyage near the speed of light could allow someone to return home and find that years or even centuries have passed for everyone else. So, in a sense, we already have a form of time travel to the future. What about going back? That's where things become more mysterious and more controversial. The equations of general relativity, the version of Einstein's theory that includes gravity, suggest the possibility of closed time-like curves. These are loops in space-time that, mathematically, could allow an object to return to its own past. This idea is theoretical, of course, but it has inspired serious scientific debate. One such concept involves rotating black holes, or Kerr black holes. If you could navigate the intense gravity and spin near such an object, it might allow for a path that bends back on itself in time. Another hypothesis, cosmic strings, hypothetical ultra-thin threads of energy left over from the early universe. Some physicists believe that if two cosmic strings passed by each other at near light speed, they could bend space-time enough to create a time loop. Even stranger, some models suggest that quantum entanglement, where two particles remain connected no matter how far apart, might hint at a deeper relationship between time and information. Could entanglement be a kind of communication between timelines? And what of quantum mechanics itself? In the quantum world, particles can exist in multiple states at once, only choosing a position when observed. Some interpretations, like the many worlds theory, propose that every possible outcome branches into its own reality. If that's true, time travel might not change our timeline, but instead branch into another. A parallel universe. One where your actions ripple differently. Suddenly, time becomes less of a line, and more of a web, but there are paradoxes. The most famous is the grandfather paradox. The idea that if you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, you'd never be born to go back in time in the first place. To resolve this, some physicists propose that the universe self-corrects, that any changes you try to make in the past will be absorbed into the flow of events. Others argue that each action creates a split reality, a new timeline altogether. Still, there's no experiment yet that can take us backward. The math allows it, but the engineering, not yet. And yet, what if time travel doesn't require a machine at all? What if consciousness, the very thing you're using right now to listen, reflect and dream, can step beyond linear time? In moments of trauma, meditation or deep spiritual experience, people often report strange distortions of time. Minutes feel like hours, or vice versa. Some speak of seeing their future. Others claim to revisit their past vividly, reliving moments, changing them in their own perception. Could consciousness itself be the key? If our minds aren't confined to linear time, then maybe, just maybe, the first-time travellers won't be astronauts, but dreamers. As we move forward, let's explore the more specific models proposed by physics and the tantalising possibility of travelling not just into the future, but back into the fabric of time itself. Chapter 5: Einstein, Wormholes and the Speed of Light. Imagine space as a sheet of paper. Now place 2 dots on it, one at the top, one at the bottom. The distance between them is the space a traveller must cross. But what if, instead of going in a straight line, you fold the paper until the 2 points touch? That, in essence, is the idea of a wormhole. In 1935, Einstein and physicist Nathan Rosen proposed the concept of what we now call an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a tunnel between 2 points in space-time, a wormhole. Theoretically, it could connect 2 locations in the universe, or even 2 different moments in time. The idea is rooted in the equations of general relativity. If space-time can curve, it can bend so sharply it forms a bridge, shortening the path between distant points. But there's a catch. A wormhole, as imagined by physics, is incredibly unstable. It would collapse almost instantly under its own gravity, unless something could hold it open. Enter exotic matter, a hypothetical substance with negative energy. Unlike normal matter, exotic matter could repel gravity. In theory, lining the walls of a wormhole with exotic matter might keep it stable and traversable. Science fiction maybe. But NASA physicist Harold White has explored concepts of manipulating space-time using warp bubbles, a kind of pocket of space that moves faster than light, while the contents inside remain still. This concept borrows from similar ideas, bending space rather than breaking physical laws. Now think of light, the fastest thing in the known universe. Einstein's theories state that nothing with mass can reach the speed of light. But what if space itself moves? In the early moments after the Big Bang, space is believed to have expanded faster than the speed of light, pulling galaxies apart in an instant. That inflation didn't move objects through space faster than light. Rather, it stretched the fabric itself. If we could replicate that stretching, could we jump between times? This leads to the Alcubierre drive, a theoretical engine that contracts space in front of a ship and expands it behind. The ship itself doesn't move faster than light, but the bubble it rides in does. If such a drive could be built and manipulated correctly, it might create a shortcut, not just across space, but across time. The implications are stunning. A journey across the stars, or back to the origins of Earth. The barriers, of course, are vast. We lack the technology, the materials, and the energy levels to begin such work, but conceptually, it's not forbidden. That alone is enough to ignite imagination. And while scientists work on equations, there are others, quietly experimenting with time in more practical, hands-on ways. Inventors, tinkerers, dreamers. Those who believe that time machines might not only be possible, but already here. Chapter 6: Real Experiments and Inventions, hinting at time travel. In dusty workshops, secret labs, and obscure corners of the internet, the idea of time travel has taken on a different form, not in equations, but in hardware. While mainstream science walks cautiously, some have charged ahead. Bold, eccentric, and often dismissed, these individuals believe time travel can be built. Let's begin with the story of John Titor. In the early 2000s, an anonymous poster appeared on online forums claiming to be a time traveller from the year 2036. He described his mission: to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer from 1975, supposedly needed in his future to debug legacy systems. Titor provided detailed diagrams of his machine, referencing concepts from real physics, like Kerr black holes and time distortion fields. He made predictions, some vague, others oddly specific. A few seemed eerily close to real-world developments. Was he a hoax? Probably. But the story raised a strange possibility. What if time travellers could exist, but simply blend into our world? Then there's Ronald Mallet, a respected physicist who lost his father at a young age and dedicated his life to building a time machine. Mallet's design doesn't use wormholes, but rather lasers, specifically circulating beams of light that twist space-time. His idea is based on the fact that light, though massless, carries energy and can warp space, albeit minutely. His proposal is simple in spirit, if complex in practice. Spin light fast enough in a stable loop, and the twisting of space-time could, in theory, send particles, or people, backward. To date, the experiment hasn't yet created a working machine, but Mallet's work has earned recognition and funding. He believes that time travel may one day become a tool of healing, to visit lost loved ones, to witness history firsthand. Another curious case, the Philadelphia experiment. In 1943, rumours began to circulate that the US Navy had conducted a secret experiment to render the USS Eldridge invisible, and that it accidentally caused time distortions. Witnesses claimed the ship vanished, reappeared miles away, and returned with sailors fused into the metal, some disoriented, others said to have vanished forever. Official records deny it, but the legend endures. More recently, researchers at CERN have explored the possibility of time symmetry violations in subatomic particles, cases where the behaviour of matter might not be the same moving forward and backward in time. And then there's Project Pegasus, a fringe claim by lawyer Andrew Basiago, who says the US government developed teleportation and time travel tech in the 1970s, tech that allowed children to serve as chrononauts due to their adaptability to time distortions. While mainstream science rejects these stories, it's worth asking, are we so certain time travel is impossible? That we can dismiss every outlier? As technology advances, we increasingly find the impossible becoming plausible. Flight, space travel, cloning, artificial intelligence, all once fiction. Perhaps time travel too awaits a breakthrough moment. Maybe it already happened, and we simply haven't caught up yet. Let's now wander into the stranger corners of the map, the mysteries, the disappearances, and the eerie evidence that suggests someone, somewhere, may have already slipped through time. Chapter 7. Mysteries and disappearances linked to time travel. Not all who vanish are lost in the traditional sense. Some disappearances feel different, uncanny, untethered from normal explanation. When we examine the stories of those who seem to slip through the cracks of time itself, a pattern begins to emerge. These aren't just tales of people lost in the wilderness or swept away by oceans. These are cases where time feels altered. Let's begin in 1518 with the account of Gil Perez, a Spanish soldier stationed in Manila, Philippines. According to legend, he was on duty guarding the governor's palace when he felt dizzy and leaned against a wall to rest. When he opened his eyes, he was suddenly in Mexico City. He was arrested, questioned, and couldn't explain how he had gotten there. But Perez described the recent assassination of the governor in Manila, a fact no one in Mexico yet knew. Weeks later, a ship arrived confirming his story. How could he have known? Centuries later, in 1950, a man appeared in Times Square, New York City. Witnesses described him as disoriented, dressed in outdated clothing. Within moments, he was struck by a car and killed. When authorities searched his body, they found coins no longer in circulation, and a business card for a company that hadn't existed in decades. A missing persons report from 1876 matched his description exactly. The case remains unsolved. Then there's the mysterious vanishing hotel story from 1979. Two British couples were travelling through rural France and decided to stop at a quaint old hotel. Everything felt off. The decor, the clothing of the staff, even the price of the room, just a few francs. The next morning the hotel and its occupants were gone, seemingly erased from existence. No one had heard of it. The film in their cameras, mysteriously missing. The story echoes many other time-slip cases, moments where people claim to have entered another time period briefly, only to return with strange memories or lost hours. Are these distortions of the mind, or the side effects of slipping between timelines? In 2008, a man in Switzerland was arrested for insider trading. He had turned $800 into $350 million with perfectly timed stock picks. Under questioning, he claimed he was from the year 2256, sent back to make a fortune. Authorities dismissed it as absurd, but he vanished before his court date and his assets were never recovered. Then we have the unsettling story of Lars Mittank, a German tourist who travelled to Bulgaria in 2014. He was last seen on airport surveillance running in panic, abandoning his luggage, sprinting through the terminal and vanishing into the forest. He hasn't been seen since. While many suspect mental health struggles or foul play, online communities have speculated. Did he experience a shift, a time slip, something he couldn't explain? Across cultures and centuries, similar stories emerge. People lost to time, people out of time, and the creeping sense that time doesn't always behave the way we expect it to. Perhaps time is not just a stream, but a maze, and some wander off the path. Chapter 8. Alleged time travellers throughout history. Some time travellers don't vanish. They appear, sometimes in art, sometimes in photos, sometimes in stories too strange to ignore. Let's begin with the Chaplin time traveller. In 2010, filmmaker George Clark uploaded a clip from a behind-the-scenes reel of Charlie Chaplin's 1928 film The Circus. In the background, a woman walks by, holding something to her ear. It looks exactly like a modern cell phone. In 1928, such a device didn't exist. Skeptics argued she might have been using a hearing aid, but no such design from that era matches the object in her hand. So the question lingers, if she wasn't using a cell phone, what was it? Or consider the time-travelling hipster, a photo from the 1940s showing a man in sunglasses, a printed shirt and what appears to be a modern camera around his neck. Everything about him seems out of place among the crowd. No one could identify him, and the objects he carried, they weren't common until decades later. These stories gained viral attention, but they're not the only examples. There's Rudolph Fentz, a man allegedly struck by a car in New York in 1950. He wore outdated clothing, carried old currency, and bore identification dating back to the 1800s. When researchers searched for his identity, they found a missing person report, filed in 1876. Though the story later appeared to originate from a fictional short story, many still believe the tale has roots in reality, an echo of truth wrapped in fiction. Even more strange is the case of Andrew Carlson, the man arrested in 2003 for making wildly successful stock trades, exactly like our earlier reference. He supposedly told the FBI he had travelled from the year 2256. After bail was posted by an anonymous benefactor, Carlson disappeared. His case was never closed. In ancient texts and artwork, strange figures appear too. In the 13th century cathedral of Salamanca, Spain, a stone carving depicts a man in what looks like a modern astronaut suit. The carving was part of the restoration in the 1990s, but conspiracy theorists argue it's too eerily accurate. Medieval tapestries show figures with what resemble flying saucers. Ancient Indian epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana describe flying machines, vimanas, capable of travelling between realms and across time. Is it mere metaphor or memory? In 2003, a man calling himself Håkan Nordqvist claimed to have travelled to the year 2042 by crawling under his kitchen sink. He said he met his future self, who even showed a matching tattoo. He provided a video of them together, laughing and comparing ink. The footage was simple, but haunting. It raises the question, if time travellers did exist, how would we ever know? Perhaps they walk among us unnoticed. Perhaps they don't wear silver suits or drive DeLoreans, but rather blend in quietly, collecting data, watching, waiting. The clues are scattered across time like breadcrumbs in a forest, and those who spot them often feel a pull toward a timeline just out of reach. Chapter 9. Scientific Anomalies that Break the Clock. Sometimes, time doesn't behave the way it should. Across physics, biology, and human experience, there are anomalies. Moments when time speeds up, slows down, or behaves in ways that defy the laws we thought we understood. Let's begin with a double-slit experiment, one of the strangest phenomena in quantum physics. In this experiment, particles like electrons are fired at a barrier with two slits. On the other side, a screen records where they land. When unobserved, the particles behave like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern. But when observed, they act like particles, choosing one path. The act of observing changes the outcome. Even more bizarre, some interpretations suggest that the particles somehow know whether they'll be observed before they are. Does this hint at retrocausality? That the future can affect the past? Physicist John Wheeler proposed the delayed choice experiment, where decisions made after a photon passes through a slit still seem to affect its earlier behaviour. Time, in these cases, seems to fold back on itself. Then there's the phenomenon of biocentrism proposed by Dr. Robert Lanza. This theory suggests that life creates the universe, not the other way around. In this view, time and space are not objective realities, but tools of perception, constructs created by consciousness. If that's true, then perhaps time is far more flexible than we thought. Let's move to biology. There are people who, under extreme stress or trauma, report time slowing down. During accidents, everything seems to stretch. Moments feel like minutes. Is this just the brain speeding up its processing? Or are we touching some deeper layer of reality? There are also those with hyperthermesia, a condition that allows individuals to remember every day of their life in vivid detail. For them, the past is always present, accessible in ways most of us can't imagine. And then there's déjà vu, the uncanny sensation of having already lived a moment. Scientists struggle to explain it. Some believe it's a glitch in memory. Others wonder, what if it's a moment we've already lived, in another timeline? In 2020, researchers discovered time reverse signals in quantum computers. Tiny pulses that appear to travel backwards through the system. While the effect was microscopic, it suggests that under specific conditions, time reversal isn't impossible. In space, time moves differently too. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station age slightly slower than we do on Earth. The GPS satellites we rely on every day must account for both special and general relativity, adjusting their clocks constantly to match our slower time flow on the planet's surface. Time is not universal, it's not fixed. It changes based on speed, gravity, and possibly consciousness. So when we say something is impossible, what do we really mean? Perhaps we simply lack the language to describe it, or the eyes to see it. In every strange experiment, every anomaly, every whisper of data that doesn't fit, there lies a doorway, a glitch in the matrix, an invitation to look deeper, and perhaps a clue left behind by time travellers who knew we'd one day start to understand. Chapter 10. Dreams, Meditation and Nonlinear Time. Long before science tried to measure time, humans experienced it. Not in numbers or clocks, but in dreams, in moments that stretched endlessly, or passed in the blink of an eye. Dreams are perhaps the most familiar frontier where time seems to dissolve. We fall asleep for minutes, only to live through hours, even days inside a dream. A single image, like a house collapsing or a walk in a city that doesn't exist, can feel longer than reality itself. Why is this? Neurologists suggest that dreams are processed in fragments. Our brain pieces them together using stored memories, emotions and symbols. But mystics, shamans and ancient cultures have long believed something deeper, that dreams are portals, that in the dream world time is fluid and space is not what it seems. In lucid dreaming, the rare state where one becomes aware inside a dream, some practitioners report being able to manipulate time, stretching a second into an hour, visiting places from the distant past or future, or simply floating in stillness where no time exists at all. Meditation brings similar results. Advanced meditators, especially in Tibetan and Vedic traditions, often describe a dissolving of time. In deep states of samadhi or flow, the self disappears, so does the tick of the clock. You're no longer inside time, you're outside of it, observing it pass like wind through trees. Some believe this state is closer to our true nature, eternal, non-linear, always present. Time, in this view, is not a straight road, is more like a spiral or a sphere. The 20th century mystic G.I. Gurdjieff taught that we live multiple lives simultaneously. That time as we know it is just a limitation of our current perception. In deep enough awareness, he believed one could see across timelines, past, future, alternate lives, all accessible in altered states. Even Einstein once hinted, the distinction between past, present and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Then there are the strange dreams that seem prophetic. People dreaming of events that haven't happened yet. A loved one passing, a place they've never visited, a conversation that plays out days later, word for word. Science labels these coincidence, but millions across the world have had them. Could dreams be glimpses into other timelines? Echoes of memories we haven't lived yet? Some philosophers argue that time isn't something we move through, but something we generate with consciousness, and that in our most still and silent moments, between breaths, between thoughts, we can touch the place where all time exists at once. A dream, a vision, a sense that we've been here before, not déjà vu, but a quiet remembering that perhaps in some way we always knew. Chapter 11. Religious and mythological concepts of time travel. Long before science and equations, there were myths, stories that seemed fantastical on the surface, but underneath carried truths about time, fate and the nature of reality. Let's begin in Hinduism. In the Mahabharata, one of the world's oldest epics, a king named Kakudmi travels to meet the god Brahma in the heavens. He waits for what seems like a short conversation, only to return to Earth and find that thousands of years have passed. This story, over 2,000 years old, bears striking resemblance to Einstein's theory of time dilation, and yet it predates it by millennia. In the Bhagavata Purana, time is cyclical, divided into vast cosmic ages, yugas, that repeat endlessly. Gods and enlightened beings are said to travel between these ages, suggesting not just time travel, but access to other dimensions entirely. In Norse mythology, the god Odin sacrifices himself on the world tree Yggdrasil to gain knowledge of the past and future. Time is a wheel, not a line. Seers called Volvas could look across timelines, divining events yet to come, or ones long past. Greek mythology also hints at time distortion. The story of Rip Van Winkle, though modern in form, echoes ancient tales of mortals who fall asleep and wake to find decades gone. In Plato's dialogues, time is seen as an imperfect reflection of a higher, timeless reality. Christianity too is filled with time-transcending moments. The Book of Revelation reads like a vision of past and future colliding. Angels move between dimensions. Time unravels during prophecy. The notion of eternity isn't just infinite time, but outside of time altogether. In Islamic tradition, the Prophet Muhammad's Isra and Miraj, his night journey and ascension, occurred in a single night, yet encompassed a cosmic voyage across heavens, time and reality. Time, in this case, bends to divine will. Buddhism teaches that time is an illusion of the mind. The concept of impermanence, anicca, emphasizes that clinging to any moment is futile. In some Mahayana schools, Buddhas are said to appear in different ages, guiding beings in multiple realms and times. Native American and Aboriginal myths also embrace cyclical time. In the dream time of Australian Aboriginal lore, ancestral spirits shape the world and exist outside linear time, still accessible in sacred rituals and sites. Even in Judaism, the mystical teachings of Kabbalah describe time as layered and multidimensional. The Tree of Life is not just a map of the soul, but a structure for reality itself, suggesting intersections of spiritual and temporal dimensions. All these traditions, across continents and centuries, point to one core truth. Time is not fixed. It bends, spirals, folds, and dissolves in the presence of divinity, insight, or transcendence. These stories aren't just metaphors. They may be encoded wisdom, fragments of knowledge passed down from those who glimpsed behind the veil. And when seen together, they form a mosaic, one where gods, prophets, and dreamers have always known. That time is not a prison, but a passage. Chapter 12. The Mandela Effect and Collective Timeline Shifts. What if the timeline you remember isn't the one you live in? This is the unsettling question at the heart of the Mandela Effect. A phenomenon where large groups of people remember something differently than how it appears in recorded history. It began with something simple. Many people recalled Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. They remembered watching the funeral, the speeches, the news coverage. And yet, in our timeline, Mandela was released in 1990, became South Africa's president, and lived until 2013. So where did the memory come from? As more people came forward, similar distortions emerged. The Berenstein Bears versus Berenstain Bears. Luke, I am your father versus no, I am your father. The Monopoly man with a monocle, who never had one. The colour chartreuse being remembered as pinkish instead of green. Are these simple mistakes of memory, or signs of something deeper? Some theorists believe the Mandela effect is evidence of timeline shifts, instances where reality has subtly changed, but memories remain as echoes of a previous version. One theory suggests that our consciousness is not fixed to one timeline, but moves between them. When major global or quantum events occur, we may shift, unknowingly, into an adjacent reality. It's not time travel in the traditional sense. It's timeline hopping. There are thousands of documented Mandela effect experiences. many involving obscure details no one would likely misremember en masse. Brands, logos, quotes, historical events, all remembered differently. Could CERN's particle collider, activated in 2008, have created a shift in our reality? Some believe so. That the manipulation of fundamental particles may have caused ripples through the fabric of time and possibility. Others point to D-wave quantum computers, which operate using entangled particles and multi-state systems. Could such technologies accidentally or purposefully open portals between realities? Even mainstream scientists like Dr. Mikio Kaku have speculated about parallel universes. In many worlds theory, every decision creates a branching timeline. In this model, infinite versions of you exist, each with different memories, outcomes, and events. So perhaps the Mandela effect is not error, but memory. Memory of a path we were once on, before we shifted. Some report intense feelings of unease when they encounter these distortions. A sense of wrongness, as if something foundational doesn't align anymore. Some even remember different histories entirely. In rare cases, people claim to have returned to their correct timeline after months or years in the wrong one. Real or imagined, the Mandela effect taps into something primal. That time and reality may not be as stable as we thought. That we live in a quantum soup of possibilities. And that our minds, mysterious as they are, may be the key to remembering what the world has forgotten. Perhaps somewhere deep inside, you remember something too. Something that doesn't quite belong here. A name, a place, a truth. Not from this timeline, but from another, waiting to be remembered. Chapter 13. Urban Legends and Hidden Experiments. Sometimes truth hides best in the shadows, in quiet stories whispered between strangers, told at midnight over static radios, or posted anonymously in forgotten corners of the internet. Urban legends, those strange half-believed tales, have always hinted at something deeper. Beneath their surface, there's a pattern, one that often leads back to time. Let's begin with the Philadelphia experiment. In 1943, the US Navy allegedly conducted an experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The story goes that they attempted to make the USS Eldridge, a military ship, invisible using electromagnetic fields. But something went wrong, very wrong. Witnesses claim the ship vanished, not just from sight but from time. When it reappeared, some crew members were fused into the steel hull, others went mad. A few vanished permanently, lost between moments. The Navy denied it, of course, but the story refuses to die. Then there's the tale of Project Pegasus. In the early 2000s, a man named Andrew Basiago claimed he participated in a secret US government program during the 1970s. As a child, he said, he was teleported across time and space using devices based on Nikola Tesla's theories. He described visiting Gettysburg in 1863, witnessing Lincoln's assassination, and jumping forward to secret bases on Mars. Far-fetched, perhaps, but his descriptions were oddly consistent, detailed, lucid, and he wasn't the only one. Other individuals, many with no connection to Basiago, reported similar time mission memories, often involving children trained for temporal travel. Another story, the chronovisor, a supposed invention by the Vatican in the 1950s. The chronovisor was said to be a device that could view past events through electromagnetic residue. Priests allegedly used it to witness biblical moments, Christ's crucifixion, ancient sermons, lost prophecies. The story first surfaced through Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk and a respected exorcist. He claimed the device was real, co-created by a team of scientists, including, rumour has it, Enrico Fermi. Ernetti later retracted his claims under mysterious circumstances. Some say the Vatican still hides the chronovisor beneath Rome. Urban legends also swirl around Area 51, long linked to alien technology, but also, some believe, time manipulation. Former employees have hinted at temporal displacement chambers and experiments with gravity-based propulsion. In 2003, a man known only as John Titor appeared on online forums. He claimed to be a time traveller from the year 2036, sent back to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer to fix a future computing crisis. He posted photos, diagrams, even fielded questions with eerie accuracy. He vanished in 2001, just as he said he would. Skeptics dismiss it as a hoax, yet many of his predictions, while not exact, echo strange truths unfolding today. Civil tensions, pandemic fears, the rise of quantum tech. Then there are the time slips. Ordinary people, tourists, drivers, hikers, report stepping into places where the world changes around them. Clothing, architecture, even language shifts. Then, as quickly as it began, they're back. No one believes them, but their stories are consistent, strangely precise, and chilling. One couple in 1979 on holiday in France stopped at a quaint inn with gas lamps and old uniforms. The next day it was gone, replaced by modern buildings. Locals claimed no such inn existed. Time, it seems, has seams, and sometimes people slip through. Urban legends, maybe, but legends often begin with something real, and when enough people whisper the same strange tale, it begins to sound less like fiction and more like a forgotten truth. Chapter 14. Government Secrets and the Chrononaut Files. In the dimly lit corridors of classified buildings, beyond the reach of cameras and courts, secrets grow like shadows, for every official denial. There's a classified document, buried in vaults, redacted in ink, and whispered about in circles of power. Time travel, it seems, may not just be the realm of fiction. Governments, especially during the Cold War, were obsessed with technological superiority, and time manipulation, that would be the ultimate edge. Some call them chrononauts, soldiers, scientists, and civilians tasked with exploring time for their governments. Officially, they don't exist, but unofficially, their stories are everywhere. Let's begin with the CIA's Stargate project. While it was primarily focused on remote viewing, the ability to psychically see distant locations, many involved later claimed that the program evolved into something far more experimental, viewing through time. Declassified documents reveal that psychics were asked to observe ancient civilizations, alien structures, and potential future events. Some reportedly described the fall of Atlantis, others humanity's evolution into light-based beings. But what if viewing wasn't enough? Enter DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Whispers suggest that DARPA continued work on time tunnels, based on Einstein-Rosen bridges, wormholes, and torsion field physics. One alleged document leaked under the name Project Montauk describes children trained in temporal sensitivity. Subjects would be placed in sensory isolation, then exposed to electromagnetic frequencies designed to shift their perception of time. Several participants later claimed to have disappeared, and returned changed. In the 1980s, a man named Preston Nichols, once an engineer, came forward claiming to have worked at Montauk Air Force Station. He spoke of chairs wired with thought amplifiers, of children sent through portals, of contact with beings from other eras. Of course he was discredited, labelled unstable, but his knowledge of electromagnetic frequencies, mind control and signal disruption was undeniably advanced. Other alleged whistleblowers have come forward. Michael Relf, who claimed to serve 20 years in a secret Mars colony before being age-regressed and returned to Earth. William Stillings, who testified under oath that he and others trained for missions involving time relocation. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, who claims she was recruited into a secret Mars and time program involving wormhole travel. Is it coincidence that so many of these stories intersect? Same technologies, same locations, same patterns of secrecy. There are even claims that the Large Hadron Collider at CERN isn't just about smashing particles, but stabilizing a time portal. In 2008, shortly after it was activated, strange events occurred globally. Unexplained power surges, anomalies in clocks, and yes, Mandela effects. Then there's Operation Looking Glass, a rumoured black project involving a device that could see potential futures based on current actions. Some say it used reverse-engineered alien tech, capable of generating fractal timelines and predicting global outcomes. Insiders claim Looking Glass was shut down because it started showing only one future, a future that couldn't be changed. Did time lock? All of this might sound like science fiction, and yet the patterns persist. Mountains of redacted documents, unexplained deaths, scientists vanishing, technology that appears seemingly out of nowhere, decades ahead of its time. Even top physicists like Dr. David Lewis Anderson once spoke of real-world temporal experiments, of creating time-warped fields that altered clocks, objects, even perception. Today those lectures are almost impossible to find. Why? Because time travel, if it exists, would be the most powerful weapon ever conceived. Not just military power, but the power to rewrite history, to erase enemies, to change outcomes. That kind of power doesn't go public. It hides, in plain sight. Chapter 15. Could time travelers be among us today? Imagine for a moment. You're walking through a crowded city street. Among the sea of faces, one stands out. Their clothing is slightly off. Their phone, outdated or too advanced. Their speech, strange, formal, or eerily precise. You brush it off, but what if they weren't from here? What if they weren't from now? The idea that time travelers walk among us has captured the imagination for decades. Some believe they're just passing through, observers from a distant future sent back to study our history firsthand. Others say they're here to change something, to nudge the course of events in subtle, unnoticed ways. A photo from 1941 made headlines across the internet. It showed a crowd at a bridge opening in British Columbia. Everyone looked as expected. Men in suits, women in hats. Except for one man, wearing what appeared to be a graphic t-shirt, modern sunglasses, and holding a small camera, one that didn't exist at the time. Many dismissed it as coincidence. But to believers, he was the time-travelling hipster. Proof that visitors from the future walk among us. Another strange case involved a man named Rudolph Fentz, who appeared suddenly in Times Square in the 1950s. Confused, disoriented, and wearing 19th century clothing, he was struck by a car and killed. Police found coins, a business card, and a letter, all dated from the 1800s. A search reportedly revealed that a man by that name had gone missing in 1876, vanishing without a trace. While the story has been challenged over the years, it continues to fuel the idea that accidental time slips could be happening, unnoticed. Social media too is filled with time traveller claims. Accounts like Time Traveller 3036 or No Other Time Traveller have posted supposed predictions, some wildly inaccurate, others eerily close. While many are likely hoaxes, they point to a deeper fascination, the belief that someone out there knows what's coming. There's also the strange phenomenon of people with knowledge beyond their years, children who speak ancient languages they've never learned, artists who paint scenes from past centuries with stunning accuracy, or inventors who claim their ideas came to them fully formed, as if from the future. Is it possible that some souls remember other timelines? That time travel isn't just physical, but spiritual? Quantum theories now suggest consciousness may exist outside of time, that awareness itself could move through past and future, picking up impressions, symbols, emotions, and if this is true, then perhaps the real-time travellers aren't in machines. They're already here, living quietly among us. Maybe they're studying, maybe they're watching, maybe they're waiting for a particular moment, a pivot in history, or maybe they're just like you, feeling like they don't belong, remembering things that never happened, dreaming of places they've never seen, and wondering if time is trying to tell them something. We've wandered through ancient philosophies and modern theories, through Einstein's curving space-time and quantum whispers, through machines that never made it to the public eye, and testimonies lost in the margins of forgotten files. We've heard stories of ships that vanished, soldiers who stepped into thin air, photos that shouldn't exist, and voices claiming to echo from futures not yet lived. But now, here you are, still listening, somewhere between waking and dreaming. And maybe that's where time reveals its true face, not in the ticking of clocks or the pages of textbooks, but in the space where thoughts unfold, in the quiet mystery of your own awareness. What if time isn't just a river we drift along, but an ocean we can dive into? What if it bends and folds not just around gravity, but around memory, intention, emotion? Could your déjà vu be a ripple from the future? Could your dreams be timelines your soul once touched? Could your intuition, those sudden electric knowings, be echoes from a version of you that already knows how the story unfolds? Science hasn't answered it all, not yet, but we know enough to be amazed, and perhaps to remain humble, because time in all its complexity may not be meant to be mastered. Maybe it's meant to be felt. And maybe the real miracle isn't whether we can build a machine to transport us across centuries, but whether we can be present in the only moment that's ever real, now. The truth is, we are all time travellers. Each second we move forward, not with engines or wormholes, but with breath, with thought, with love. And what we choose to do with this small span of time we're given, that is where the magic lives. If somewhere in some parallel world another version of you is reading this, or remembering this, or dreaming this, then perhaps time has already folded in on itself. And maybe, just maybe, you've always known it, so close your eyes now, not to escape time, but to meet it, to feel its currents, not as something you fight, but something that carries you, timeless, boundless, endlessly unfolding. And as you drift now, gentle and slow, know that every breath you take is a step across the stars, that every heartbeat is a soft footstep in eternity. Time is not your enemy. It is your companion, your silent witness, your sacred rhythm. And somewhere, in the hush between seconds, it may just be listening. Good night, dear listener.